There have been a series of bridges crossing from Arsenal Island to Davenport. The current one opened in 1896, and it's still one of the busiest thoroughfares in the QC. Made of solid steel, Government Bridge is an icon. More burly than beautiful, it closely resembles its forefather, the 1872 bridge, built in the same place.
So we have the rail on the top, like it is today, and we had wagon place on the bottom. So that was the first time when that bridge opened in 72 that you could actually take your wagon across the river without having to use a ferry.
When the 1872 bridge became obsolete, they replaced it with the one we use today.
The pierings, actually the support structures go down to the bedrock and come up to support the bridge across those 5 spans you see there. Those are the ones that were placed in 1872.
The new bridge opened in 1896.
So if you don't like, the fact that this bridge is 15 years old, well, you're not going to like the fact that the pierings are about 140 years old.
Built to last through hot summers and bitter winters, it's still rock solid, but it's not free.
The garrison spends about $700,000 a year on maintenance on that bridge, and it will last forever. They do all kinds of maintenance on it to make sure that it continues to run. You know that buzzing sound that you hear as you drive across the Arsenal Bridge? It drives some folks crazy, but Eaton says it's actually a good thing. I think actually, that open grading that people don't like actually makes it easier because the water and the snow all just sort of fall through.
It's not only durable, but distinctive.
What's really interesting about this bridge, I think, is it's only one of 2 in the world that turns 360 degrees both ways. So that span can follow a barge through both directions.
The goal is to get the swing span opened and closed as quickly as possible, minimizing delays to road traffic.
The span itself is 1,250 tons, and that's just the swing span itself. So it's a very heavy, which makes it even more impressive that a 56 horsepower engine turns it.
It's not light, but that swing span floats like a butterfly.
In fact, when you jack it up to clear it from the pins and the stops, the wind can actually turn it by itself. And then the bridge master just uses a brake to slow it down.
Glitzy and glamorous? No. High quality and historic? No question. The current government bridge is about 300 yards downriver from the first railroad bridge across the Mississippi, which opened in 1856. Steve Long, CBS 4 News This Morning. It's a sort of rifle recycling program. The work goes on behind closed doors. The finished product is anything but quiet. They're like old rifles on steroids. Debuting in the 1950s, the M14 is a weapon with attitude, finally mothballed in the 80s.
It has a stronger ammunition that's capable of longer range, and in the mountains of Afghanistan we needed more power, more range.
So thousands of M14s were transformed, becoming enhanced battle rifles and sent to war.
We have seen these come back packed full of sand and still functioning perfectly.
If these guns were hot rods, these guys would be the pit crew, fixing M14s sent home for repair.
Every once in a while one comes back with a bullet hole in it.
Disassemble them, clean them, inspect and gauge them. If they pass that, then they will be reassembled.
Complete.
But before going back to the battlefield, they must meet meticulous standards.
I test fire every single rifle.
To qualify, a group of 3 shots needs to hit within a 1.5-inch diameter.
It's important because this rifle is meant to reach out and touch the enemy, not to scare the enemy.
McDaniel fires shot after shot after shot, because after serving in Iraq himself, he understands why precision is key.
When soldiers are over there, someone's firing at them. With this rifle, they can find the enemy, target the enemy, and take out the enemy.
Which in the business of war is the ultimate bottom line. When the M14s were converted, the old wooden stock was replaced and made adjustable. That way they can more comfortably fit the size of the soldier or be made smaller if needed to fit into hallways. Steve Long, CBS 4 News this morning. In the early days of the arsenal, they needed power. They didn't have a lot of options, but as an island, they had access to plenty of water. So they began using that water to power their plant. Nestled between the shores of Arsenal Island and Sylvan Island is a hotbed of hydropower history. You see, before this old dam, there was one even older.
It actually was a belt drive system, a mechanical system that fed through a bunch of towers and leather belts and pulleys all the way up to the stone buildings.
And that's what powered the arsenal's early manufacturing. That dam burned down in 1899, and this one, producing electricity, replaced it.
When they built things back there, they built things to last.
What still stands is a great example of the Industrial Revolution. You can see there's two wings on this dam. The first one finished just after the turn of the century.
At the time they built that, though, that was state of the art for when they put it together. And then in just such a short amount of time with the revolution, these became state of the art and did so much more than those. It just made sense to get rid of those.
Outdated, the old wing became essentially a walkway to get to the second wing, finished in 1919, featuring the 8 heavy-duty generators we see here today.
So the water rushes down through each one of these turbine bays and runs through the turbines, which is 20-some feet below us, spins the turbines, and the turbine turns the shaft, and then we're standing basically on top of a big coil that produces electrical energy.
What worked then still works now, nearly a century later.
During the course of the week, when we're running 3 shifts and production at the manufacturing plants and all the office buildings, it produces about 20% of our electrical requirements.
A long way from belts and pulleys, still harnessing energy, the green way. The plant has been modernized over the years, adding things like electronic braking systems for the turbines and digital readouts to monitor power production. Steve Long, CBS 4 News. There's been a foundry on Arsenal Island for well over a century. While it's changed locations over time, it's still there today. One thing that hasn't changed, it takes a lot of heat to melt metal. This is it. It's the U.S. Army's only active foundry.
That means we're unique. They call upon us and we get it done.
The site is mesmerizing. Men in silver suits working with melting metal.
We load the furnace, we put scrap steel in, we work with our metallurgists on the chemistry.
It's more complicated than it looks.
We don't pour one type of metal. We can go from steel to brass to aluminum to armor.
Waiting nearby are specially designed molds. In this case, they're making something for a Navy ship.
It's a part that goes around the front of the ship for their sonar system.
But moving a ladle loaded with 6,000 pounds of liquid metal requires help from above. A crane operator is a critical part of the team.
Looking down and trying to control something that heavy can be quite difficult. And then plus I can see things that the other people can't see, so I can signal them if we do have a safety issue.
And you just got to be aware of your surroundings, safety first. You can't be afraid of the metal. It is dangerous, but you can't be afraid of it.
When it's time to pour the molten metal into the molds, there's little margin for error.
It's a 2-inch opening, then the top of the runner cup's probably 8 inches.
The parts will have to cool for 8 hours before they can be taken out of the molds.
You know, the metal itself, let's say, is 3,000 degrees. You get 3-4 feet away from it, it's got to be at least 400 or 500 degrees. You know, it's kind of like opening up an oven and sticking your face in there.
An age-old occupation that requires a little fire in the belly and a passion for pouring metal. In the early days of the arsenal, the foundry melted down Civil War cannonballs to make railings, fences, and other accessories for Quarters 1 and the stone shops. Steve Long, CBS 4 News this morning.